If you just picked up Subway Builder or are thinking about buying it, this video is for you. I'll walk you through all the basics to build your first subway system, then go over some tips and tricks to turn your city from this to this. Let's hit new game. The game currently has 26 US cities with plans for more. Today we'll be playing on New York. We're going to be playing on normal mode today. The only difference currently between the two is in sandbox mode you will have unlimited money. Now that we are on the map, let's take a look at the UI. In the top right we have our map layers, mute, map theme, and settings tab. The layer I find most useful is the building foundation depth. This will allow you to see how deep your subways will need to be in order to not have to pay a demolition fee to go under that particular building. The map theme tab allows you to choose light or dark mode, as well as use custom map colors. In the settings tab you can find the news archive, which includes custom generated news articles about what is happening with your subway. There's also the transit feed, which is like an in-game Twitter. In the bottom right we have our camera tools, and at the bottom of the screen we have our financial dashboard. This is where you can set your fare price, monitor all your revenues and expenses. The train list is where you can find all your currently running trains and their capacity. You can also see how many trains total you have, as well as you can buy them on this screen. Next to the financial dashboard you will see day and time. In this game, 1 day equals 1 year. There are 9 different periods throughout the day. Each one has unique attributes that will contribute to how you wish to schedule your trains. In the bottom left, you will find the construction, routes, statistics, and journey planner tab. In the construction tab, we can build and delete tracks and stations, as well as add crossovers. There are 2 track types, heavy and light. Each one has pros and cons, with heavy rail being better for longer, more capacity-driven routes, whereas light metro is great for serving smaller areas. Here you can select single, parallel, or quad for your tracks and stations. Here's a graphic that shows the directionality. The quad track is called an AABB, which operates like a 4-lane road, with 2 tracks going down next to each other and 2 tracks going up next to each other. You can build from 15 meters to negative 100 meters. Each elevation will have a multiplier cost added to it. Next, our routes tab. This is where you can name your route, give it a color, a shape, and choose if it is heavy or light metro. After you create a route, you cannot change the train type, but you can change everything else. The demand stats tab is one of the most important things to learn. The game uses census data to show where people live and where people work. The objective is to connect those two in a reasonable fashion. Clicking on a bubble will tell you a lot, including the number of residents and workers, as well as their departure and arrival times. If you click on a block of people, you can see their journey, with a ton of statistics about their other mode choices of driving and walking. Most cities will have a ton of workers in the same area, but residents will be more spread out. Route ridership will simply tell you how many people are riding that line, and station ridership will tell you how many people are getting on or off at that station, as well as how many are transferring to a different line at that station. We'll cover more of this later on. Okay, first let's build our first station. So let's put a station here, here, and here. And they'll all be a couple blocks from each other. Now we'll connect them up with our tracks, and then we can go and hit build blueprint. Next, let's go to our routes tab, and we can name our route. Let's create it, and then we can connect up our stops by hitting edit route and hitting the little green bubbles. And let's hit the last 2 terminus stations, and we get this error message, can't change route, no valid path. So the issue was, we forgot to add crossovers. You will need to add crossovers at your ending stop, and later in the video we'll go over on different ways to terminate your stops. And this is so the trains can turn around once they are complete with their route. So now we can go back in to our route tab and click on all the little green bubbles. You only need 1 for your ending stations, and then hit hit both sides on your intermediate stations, we'll call them. Ending stations can also be called terminus stations. So now we'll go into our trains tab, where we can see our service frequency for low, medium, and high demand. You can also change the number of cars per train. Each frequency has different hours that they operate. High demand, you will usually need at least 1 or 2 more cars. Low demand, sometimes you won't need any, depending on your city. Right now, we'll just put 1 for all. Now, we can let the game run and watch our train ping back and forth. Let's click on the train, and we can hit follow train and see where it's going, and you can see when it's getting off and on at stations, its speed, the number of passengers, as well as how long it was stopped at that station. Okay, we're gonna build out some more routes. So first, let's pull up our demand stats to see kind of where people are going. So we know that there's a lot of workers in this area, and we've seen that there's a lot of residents kind of in this northern part and on the outskirts of New York. So let's try to connect some of these bubbles. And what we can do is we can hit the little pin button, and that will leave on the demand stats in the background while we're building. So I see a big bubble right here. So let's build a station right here, and then we can start building our tracks down. And then let's build one more station right here, and let's figure out where we want the station to go. So I see a nice spot down here, and as you can see, I zoom in, you can actually build over these roads as long as you're not hitting any buildings at this -5 cut and cover. And you can see, since I'm at this elevation, and I previously talked about before, the building foundation depth, all buildings in this game are set to at least -11 or -10, sorry. So you have to be under at -11 to get under standard buildings, and other buildings have deeper depths, especially New York. Let's build one more station a little bit shorter, and then we'll curve this last track, and then let's try to connect these two rails. And as you can see, we're getting some demo issues. So I'm going to drop down the track to -11, and I'm going to bring back this track a little bit so we can drop it down to the right slope. And then let's drop this track down to the right slope, and let's see if we can connect them up without any issues. And we are going to have one little issue, so we're just going to build around that, and there you go. Now we can look at our costs, which tell us exactly how much what is costing. And let's hit build. And now let's add our crossovers before we forget. Hit build again. And let's go into our routes tab and create our B line. And let's go through edit route and just select all of our bubbles. And remember, you only need one at your ending stations. Now let's go to trains, and we'll run one high demand, and it looks like we need to buy more. So let's buy 15 and have 2 cars for medium and high demand. Oh, and look at that, our first population bubble. So these will show up, and these are representing passengers coming from wherever they're coming from, getting onto your station. Okay, so we're gonna build a perpendicular line to our existing lines. So we'll have a station right here, and let's have a station right here, and this will act as a transfer station. We need to place it at least 4 meters separated, and we'll drop it down to -9. That looks good. And that creates a station group. This encourages transfers, and you can click on right now, and you can see both your stations, and it will tell you your total ridership as well as your transfer ridership. And then let's build another station down the street and connect it all up. And then we're going to add crossovers to our 2 ending stations. And now we're going to create our C line, and we're going to connect up to the 2 ends. And let's add some trains. And I want to make this a 10-car route. The 10-car is double capacity, but only about 1/3 more in cost. Okay, so we're going to pull up our demand stats again, and we're going to see where people in this area are going. So it looks like everyone is traveling to our kind of workforce center. So let's build some stations up here to help these folks out get to work. And we're going to build all of our stations down this main street by Central Park. And then let's connect up and add our crossover and then hit build. And now we're going to extend our existing route A up there. We'll make sure it works by hitting the terminus stations and then filling in all the green bubbles at the intermediate stations. And we'll hit confirm. And it looks like we're getting our first warning now. And let's click on that, and it says our A train is at or near capacity. So yeah, it's almost full completely. So let's click on a current train, and this train isn't as full, so we won't upgrade our capacity yet. Clicking on a train, you can see exactly where people are coming from and where people are going, as well as we can see a bunch of our little population dots starting to show up. And you can click on these people, and it will tell you where their home is and their destination. It looks like half the people took transit and the other half drove. It gives us how long it's going to take for them to walk, or if they drive, how much it's going to cost them. in driving and parking. And let's look at our station group, and we can see it has around 3,000 origin destinations. So these are people getting on or off at the station, and about 400 transfers. So that's pretty good. And it looks like we're getting more capacity issues. So let's go to trains, and let's just add one more train, and we're gonna have to buy some more. And we'll have one more train for our high demand, medium, and our low demand. In this section, we're going to go over different ways to terminate lines. Those are some graphics from Reddit. So I'm just going to build out some lines, and I'm going to show you 5 examples of how to terminate. This is so your trains can turn around. So first we had a crossover, and then on our second line right here, we're doing a little loop in the back on both sides. And then for our quad track, we're gonna have a crossover in the middle, and then we're gonna do just a little mini loop in the back so they can turn around. Our other quad track, we're gonna put a crossover on both sides, and then we're gonna do the same kind of loop in the back, and that's so the outer rails can turn around. Our last quad track, we're gonna do those crossovers, and then we're gonna extend out a parallel track, add a crossover, and then we're gonna put both of our single tracks connected. So now looking at it, just to show you that it works, we can see where it's crossing over, so how it's turning around. And then on our second track, you can see it's following the train path, the loop. The third quad track, you can see that also works with the crossover. And then our outer blue line is able to use that kind of mini turn. Our fourth track, you can see our brown line's using the bigger loop. And then our last track, you see the outer track is kind of extending further, crossing back over, and then it can go back down to the other side. Okay, in the last section, we showed some quad track usage. We're gonna build it on our tutorial map. I can see that there's a lot of demand kind of going down. This is New York, there's demand everywhere. So we're gonna build our quad track on this road right here. So let's go to build tracks, hit quad, and then start kind of building down, see where we wanna go. And remember, it's down, down, up, up, that AABB formation I talked about earlier in the video. And now we're gonna build a station right here. And let's build some stations down here. All right, we'll hit build, and we'll add our crossover. And we'll have our crossover on both sides. And we're gonna add that little mini loop I showed in the previous section to both ends. This is so they can turn around. And let's hit build. And then we're gonna create a new route, our D line. And let's connect this up in the middle and see if this works. Quad tracks work great for express lines or just separating 2 lines from each other. And we're gonna have our E for express in this situation. And we're just gonna have it go from one end to the other, and it can bypass our middle station. And you can see it's sticking to the outside, its own rails. That has no way of crossing over into the middle rail. And now you can see our kind of Spider-Man looking route. And I want to do something interesting. So let's say we wanted our outside tracks, our outside line to stop at this inside tracks on this station. So what we can do is we can use the node from the station and connect to the outer rail on both sides. And going into the station, we're going to go from right to left. And this is so it can cross over into the station. And now let's hit build. And then we're going to go to the other part of the station and do the same thing. That way it can go from the inside to outside using these single tracks. And now let's see if that works. So all we're going to do is click on the middle 2 stops, and let's see if that's working. And it looks like it is. And you can kind of see they're both stopping on the inside. This section we're going to go over flyovers and junctions. This is whenever you need to connect 2 parallel tracks to a quad track or 2 parallels to a parallel. So in the background I have some of the junctions that I used in my Boston series to kind of give you an example of what that could look like. So here we're back in the tutorial map, and we're going to connect up our quad track north to our A line, and then we're going to connect to the east on our green line to that exit street station. So first we're gonna have to go underneath the track. We know that this track is at -9 meters. So let's just dip underneath so we can connect straight through. And you see right there, you can actually build a track inside another track and then delete the original track. And it just saves some headache. So now we're gonna connect in to our station. So we're gonna build 2 little single tracks on the side right there. And now we're gonna bring through our single track, and you can see we're gonna deal with a lot of issues if we directly connect to it. So we're gonna work backwards and just have a straight section. And it looks like that's not gonna work, so I'm gonna fix that up. Oh, we have that fixed up. And now we'll reconnect in, and then we're gonna build another straight section on the other side of the track. And that's also at -11. And we're gonna drop it to -13 because we need to be within more than 4 meters separated from our middle green track. So you see we're solving some issues, so we're just gonna go around that building. There, we all connected in. And because this track is at -13, we shouldn't have any issues getting around our 2 existing tracks. And we'll build in right there, and then it's all connected up. And that's a nice little flyover we just built. So now we're gonna connect up our routes together. So we're gonna bring actually our D route further north, and it's gonna terminate at that station right there. And then we're gonna bring our E track in. And it looks like we're having some issues, as you can see. It's going left, which we don't want. And the reason is because our tracks are after our crossover, not before. So let's fix that real quick. And all we have to do is bring this back out. And then we're gonna connect our tracks before our crossover, you see right there. So we're gonna have to drop down our tracks, and you'll see it's kind of snapping. It's hitting that node of the crossover. So we can work backwards, and then we'll route that back up and connect it all. And now we'll go back to our routes and we'll connect in and see if that works, and it does, and we don't have any issues, going back onto the track. That looks nice. So yeah, so that's a flyover. They're very useful. I use them basically all the time. You'll see in the Boston series. And let's see if this is working. And it looks like it is. Just gonna wait for that train right there, and then it's gonna go in. Okay, now we're gonna go over some common issues that I've been finding in my playthrough of the game. One is no valid path. The second one is just capacity issues, and the third one is signal blockage. No valid path, most likely there's no crossover at the end station, or it's not properly connected to the right track. If you're running into capacity issues, you most likely need to increase frequency. You can also upgrade to a 10 car, and the third option is adding a nearby line to help take some demand off. And I wanted to go back, and that flyover we just built, we're encountering an issue where our E-line trains are just not moving, they're stuck. And you'll see in a second, we're gonna get a notification stuck to signal blockage. So you see at the top, our train just disappeared, and then we're getting this notification. So basically, this is any situation where the train is just gonna be stuck there for eternity. So it's gonna remove itself, trying to clear it. And you see the C green line has priority over the E. Some possible fixes are to run less trains, which isn't very optimal. Fix the junction, which as you saw before, we did fix this junction. There's nothing wrong with it. Or 3, the best choice, and most likely the choice you're gonna have to go with, is upgrade to a quad station. So with that, we're gonna disconnect our routes and we're gonna build up a quad station here. So first, let's disconnect all of our routes. And as you can see, there's kind of like a go space between our lines and that plus button. And that is trains that are currently on the track that need to be cleared. So let's go through, let's select delete tracks, and we can delete the station, delete all these. And let's build our quad station a little bit further out. And then we can connect back up our parallel, connect both of our single rails back up, and then do the little mini loop at the end. And then we'll build, and let's reconnect up our E line and see if it's working. And then we'll add this extra stop there. And let's add in our green line, and we'll add one more stop there. And let's confirm and see if this is working. And it looks like it does. So that fixed the issue. I would say most likely you're gonna have to do that in this type of situation. It works pretty well, and it's visually appealing. We hopped into my Boston save. I wanted to give you guys some more advanced tips and tricks. The first one is to connect to the airport on your map, or airports, depending on what type of map you're on. They're a big job center, as well as, I don't know if the game factors in people flying in and out of the city, but I know that there's a huge demand for this. And as you can see, we can click on this bubble over here and it's telling me, it has this little airport icon, and that's saying they're commuting to the airport. And two is to build a transfer station downtown. I have this mega station, government center, as you see, and all the rails are just kind of going towards it. I have my airport hooked up, and it works really well in the series. You can see I have around 50,000 just transfers at this station of people going to different lines. The third tip I have is that college campuses have a very high demand for transit. As you see, we're at Harvard, and we have, 19,000 workers there. So that's all workers from around the map. As you'll see, we have dots all over the map that are all trying to get there. So it is very important to identify your college campuses in the area and then build to them. And you can see if we click on this other dot, and you'll see it will have this little college campus delineation. And we can see that their arrival and departure times are a little bit more sporadic. It's not that 9 to 5 that you see in other spots. And you can see that they have lower incomes, so you might have to reduce fares, and they travel slightly more in off-peak hours. And the fourth tip is watch for unique job centers. So there's this hospital area called the Longwood Medical Area in Boston. And if I click on some of these circles, and if I total, kind of the square up that you see on your screen, there's over 40,000 workers just in this one area. So I have 2 stops there, and those 2 stops connect all throughout the map. And my fifth and final tip is consider building a radial or ring rail line depending on where you are. Boston works perfectly for this because all the suburbs around the city have some pretty high demand for transit. And as you see, it's our pink line, and you can see it doesn't get the most ridership, but you can see a lot of transfers when I'm clicking on these stations kind of around the map. And if I go to my routes tab, I can show you, you're going to have to create 2 different lines, one for the clockwise motion and one for the counterclockwise motion. You don't want to use any crossovers here. And it will work like this. So you select all the stations on one side of the track or another, and you won't have any issues. Okay, we're back in our tutorial map. And I hope you found this video entertaining and educational. If you haven't picked up Subway Builder, I hope I convinced you to play it. It's a really fun game, and there's more maps and more content coming out soon. And if you like my content, then hit subscribe down below. I really appreciate all the support, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye-bye.